All right, good evening. Seeing it's 6 o'clock, call this meeting to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge of allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. This evening we welcome two new members, Tanya Matthews and John McGarrio. And because of the two new members, we have a reorganization meeting. So I'm going to get things started. If we have a nomination to elect a chair, and once the chair is elected, that chair will then look for nominations for both the vice chair and the secretary. Do I hear nominations for the chair position?
I'll nominate Tim Canada for chair.
Second.
And just roll call vote for that one, right? Yeah. Just to discuss, we can discuss now. I've nominated Tim. We haven't really had, he hasn't really been chair for a year yet. So I'm going to continue that on, and I think Tim's doing a pretty good job, so we're going to keep that going. So, yeah.
Roll call vote. Tanya Matthews?
Yes.
John McGarry?
Yes.
Matt Grant?
Yes.
Tim
Canada?
Canada, yes. Yep.
And Ron Lyle is absent tonight. Tim, you are
All right.
reappointed or stay on as the chairman, chairperson.
So next we'll take nominations for vice chair. We have nominations for vice chair.
Yeah, I'd like to nominate Ron Ryle for vice chair.
Anyone want to second that? I'll second that. All right, we have a motion and a second. Ron Ryle for vice chair. Roll call vote, all in favor? Tanya?
Aye.
John? Aye. Matt?
Aye.
Tim? Yes. And then secretary. Secretary is a recently vacated spot. Duties primarily, if we go into executive session and things like that, they record the minutes in the absence of our wonderful minutes keeper here. Megan does a heck of a job. It's like reading a book. So it's a very high standard to live up to, but if we could take a nomination for a secretary.
I think I would like to recommend Matt Grant.
We have a second?
I'll second that.
All right. Tanya, since you've nominated him. John?
Yes.
Matt?
Not sure, but I'll say yes.
Tim Canada, yes. All right. So now we can proceed with the rest of the meeting.
All right, thank you. So we'll get back onto the recognition chain, if you will. I want to recognize 6 students this evening who were inducted into either the National Honor Society or the National Junior Honor Society. A couple of them are playing basketball tonight, so they couldn't make it, but I want to recognize these students. They are some of our best and brightest, and these are our students who really represent North Brookfield in every best way possible. They have to uphold the 4 pillars of NHS to be inducted, which are character, scholarship, leadership, and service. So I think that these students really exemplify the best of what we do and what we produce here at North Brookfield. So if they are here, I want to call them up to be recognized. Our first recognition goes tonight to our own student representative, that is Olivia Jean Grande. I also would like to recognize Asher Beaupright. Dayton Ford. And our 3 National Junior Honor Society winners tonight, if you will. Alexis Cowett. Jenna Cianci. And Jamima Noel. And I will circle back as Dayton just arrived and recognize Dayton for his excellence in being nominated and becoming part of the National Honor Society. So Dayton. I also want to recognize another member of the Giangrande family, Mike Giangrande, who was a big part of our, is it our first annual, Olivia?
Yep.
Our first annual cornhole tournament, which is a big fundraiser, was a big fundraiser for our DC trip. So thank you, Mike, for all your efforts. I know he's not here tonight, but we appreciate everything he did for our students in the school. So thank you again, Mike.
That was a really fun tournament.
You
Matt
win?
and I did surprisingly well. We did not win.
And we made it pretty far, but yeah, I just wanted to say, by saying first annual, you're committing Mr. Giangrande.
I hope so.
to-
Well, maybe not Mike, let someone else
I
pick it up.
mean, he's definitely shown interest in doing it again, maybe not
Yeah.
all by himself, but
He did a great job.
he definitely wants to do something similar again.
Good.
Did the kids bracket fill up, or,
They could have done more kid teams.
so we had a full adult bracket, I know that.
Yes.
Yeah, he had much more than he expected for adults.
Who were the Dell champions, you know? Do you remember? Was it you guys?
It was
No, it was
not.
Friends of
Mike's, right?
It was
Small World, it was our old landlord and a friend of his,
Oh.
who just happened to see online the
Right.
postings and was like, oh, this is.
We lost to them before we got that to the end, so I feel like we lost to the winners, so we got second place. Good work, Matt.
we fought our way out of the losers bracket. We lost early and then kept winning.
We lost immediately, didn't we?
Yeah.
It's a very humbling experience. That was a really fun thing.
Good, I'm glad you guys made it.
Any other recognitions? Do you guys have any? All right. Let's go on to the approval of the minutes. So the minutes that we are approving are, let me make sure the date's correct. The minutes for Monday, December 19th, 2022. Now, here's the issue, is that Tanya and John were not on at that point, so maybe we put this off, because right now it's just me and Matt, and we are not a majority.
Sure, that's fine.
And then we can just approve
Okay.
both sets of minutes at the next meeting. Ron's not here, but he'll probably watch this from home, and I gotta make sure I do that right. All right, public participation. Public? All right, we do have 3 viewers tonight, it's good. One's leaving at 6:30. Student representative report, Olivia.
All right, I have a bit more than last week, but not too much. We are continuing with our basketball concessions at the basketball games. We open up the school store and just sell concessions to fans and players. And again, our chair for this event is Mary McGeechee. We had our giving turkey / tree in December, which was our annual giving turkey event. That's usually held throughout November and continue into December, and we use it to collect donations for Toys for Tots, and it's kind of like a grade versus grade event. The grade that brings in the most donated items gets Spirit Week points. We had our Christmas in North Brookfield, which was our biggest and most popular event for the year. We had tons of games. A bunch of people came out. It was a really good event. Again, we could not have done it without the help of Tabby and Sheila LeBlanc. We had our Holiday Spirit Week. The Monday was Flannel Day, Tuesday was Holiday Movie Character Day, Wednesday was Red and Green Day, Thursday was New Year's Eve Day, Friday was Polar Express Day, and Friday was also our Winter Sports Pep Rally, which went very well. We have coming up in March is our Hyannis Conference. We're going down on the 7th and we'll be coming back on the 11th. Then thinking a little farther out, we have our spring conference in April, April 13th at West Boylston. We have our Excellence Book and Awards that will be due this week. We began working on them in January, and our Excellence Book has been put together for a while. We've been working on it. And we have a couple different award nominations for this year. We're submitting our Unity Week from last year into the Top 10 Project Award nominations. We've got a couple more award nominations that I'll save till next meeting.
Teaser.
But the excellence book is basically, so I work as historian to create that, and it's a way for us to showcase what we've achieved as a council, and it's displayed at the Hyannis Conference for all the different councils to look at each other's work and compare, but also to showcase to everyone else what you've achieved and all the different events that you put on throughout the year. And as it's named, it's to showcase the excellence of your council. And then we have our Unity Week coming up, either sometime in February, if not in March. We haven't nailed down a specific date for that yet, but I'll let you know as soon as we do. And our Unity Week is a week-long event where we help create a stronger sense of community and unification in our school. We show support for the LGBTQ plus community and sell t-shirts that help bring awareness to mental health stigmas. And we can't not wait to put this on again last year. This was the event from at our 2021 MASC state conference, got us recognized as top 10 project. And that's kind of why we're submitting it again. It's such a great event. It just showcases how our school works as a community and how we can use just 1 week to spread awareness of so many different things. And we decorate the school and it looks nice, and we do different things at lunch and just try to bring in the whole community and really unify everything. And as always, our social media is on Instagram. We're at MBStuco, same with Facebook. And all our student council meetings are open to the community. They're typically every other Monday in here, so please feel free to join us. Thank you.
Thank you, Olivia. Do you have any questions for Olivia? That was a lot.
I do. I sent a couple of emails to Caitlin Malone and Jacob Standerwitt.
Standrovich, yep.
Thank you. I'm not sure exactly what their positions are in the student council.
So, Miss Malone is our advisor.
Okay.
She's like the adult overseer. She
Okay.
Helps with different things, but she's kind of more just there to supervise. And Jake is our president.
Okay. So what I was hoping was to reach somebody from the student council to inquire about the possibility, if it was something that you guys were interested in, about providing childcare during the school committee meetings. I wonder if, I've heard that if people had childcare, they would be more apt to come, and I just thought maybe that was something that we could work on.
Yeah, I could definitely put that out there. I'll put that out there for student council. I can also get NHS and NJHS involved in that.
Perfect, thank you.
Anything else? Thank you, Tanya. I was hoping you were still working on that.
Yeah.
If it's too successful, we'll need crowd control.
No, right? That'd be something.
All right, school committee reports. So I have an email which I shared with you guys. It's from the selectman's office, and it's from Ashley Berry, and she had sent an email late in December. This is the first meeting we've had since then, so email reads, it's a short one, so I'll just read it out loud. It says, "Good morning. A few months ago, the Board of Selectmen explored the idea of forming a small committee to investigate unfunded mandates the town of North Brookfield is responsible for. They'd like the committee to consist of 3 members, 1 from the school committee, 1 from finance committee, and 1 from the Board of Selectmen. Could you share this information with your committee and appoint a member at your next meeting? Once a member is appointed, please let me know so I can schedule a joint meeting to discuss the plans and goals for the committee." So I sent you guys the packet on that too. I think the motion would be to nominate someone. We have to motion and second it. We don't have to nominate a specific person, but we can make a motion to engage in the conversation about that, and then we can decide on someone. So I get a motion to discuss the unfunded mandates committee letter.
Sure, I'll make a motion that we discuss the unfunded mandates letter and the appointment of a school committee member to the joint committee.
All right, I get a second?
Second.
Okay. So I sent you guys the information that I got from the Mass School Committee. It's a lot, there's a lot of stuff that is required by the state and not fully funded by the state, which affects a school district, especially like this, where we don't have much of a margin of error on things. So the idea, and I think there have been breakdowns in the past over communication, this is my personal opinion, between the school committee and the various other boards that decide the final budget. We can approve a budget and submit it to them, and then we end up getting it back. And I think what we've been striving for this year is to engage in more of a dialogue with them, so this is their attempt to do that. I've done some legwork on this. I don't claim ownership over it, so if someone feels like this is something that's near and dear to their heart, I'd be more than open to that. Or I'm willing to go do this and engage in this discussion, but I wanted you guys' thoughts on it too. I didn't want to just unilaterally send myself to them.
Is this just about identifying what services are required by the state and what is currently
Yes.
offered, and what's necessary in this district?
Yeah, part of it, part of what I've gathered from what I've heard about it and conversations with past school committee members and selectmen, is I think it's what we run into is we have a big budget that we send them with 1 million line items, and it looks like a lot, but there's a lot of stuff in there that's required that you can't just cut it. So when if we receive a cut, there's a long list of things that cut cannot be taken out of.
So basically, it's about a matter of flagging all these different line items that are mandated by the state.
Communicating to them what we're faced with here,
Right.
as opposed to just sending them a budget and then worrying if they have to cut something. It becomes more of a conversation. All right, these are the things we are required by law to have. It's a conversation that comes up every year. I mean, this year we finagled the bus routes so that we still had the same routes covered, but we had one less bus, which saved a good amount of money on the transportation budget. But, we're not required to have transportation for the area that we do. We wanted to keep that. So it's basically getting it in front of them and being able to lay it out to them, just what we're faced with from a mandate point. And Tim's and the administrators are working on their budgets, and it's a lot. It's a big budget to go through.
Yeah.
When we get our copies of it, we have a whole presentation, and we go through it, and Tim explains it to us, but even having it explained in person is
Daunting.
it's a lot. I mean, last year I was sitting outside of Abby's theater class with going through spreadsheets, just double checking numbers and it's a lot to take in. And this way we can kind of flag the important must-haves and have them better understand what we're dealing with and how we approach the budget.
That's a good idea.
I mean, if you've already started, having these conversations, and I mean, you've been here the longest, I think that might be a good if you don't mind doing it,
I definitely don't mind doing it, and I think in future school committee meetings, we could have an update on this. Like we've kind of started to work in the updates on, well, Ron's not here, but updates on the regionalization, but I think this is an important thing to talk about too. And that way we're not going to the meeting as a quorum, and it's a subcommittee that I can communicate that and then, communicate with you guys afterwards. Because I'm definitely going to need your feedback on it too. That's why we're a committee. So I don't do things just by myself. I just want to get your input on it. And then we can, when it comes down to the other stuff, my thought would be that we kind of divide and conquer. And when we get this big budget, we can all look at different aspects of it in depth, and then as a group, focus on the whole and not be so completely overwhelmed by it.
I think that's a good plan of attack when I think of that town meeting, that, was a little bit of an interesting event. This is the way to go to make sure that those type of outbursts are managed, I think.
Okay, so you guys good with me going?
Yeah, so I think we have to amend that original.
Amend the original one, yeah.
Okay. I'm going to amend the original, my original motion to discuss this subcommittee to a new amendment, a new motion to nominate Tim as our representative from the school committee for the unfunded budget subcommittee with the town finance committee and town select. Do you have a second?
Second.
All right, all in favor?
Right?
All right.
All right, unanimous. That was all I had. Do you guys have any other school committee reports or anything you're working on? Tanya, John, it's your first meeting. You don't already have 17 different projects going? We'll get you something. All right. Financial reports.
Once again, I've attached the vendor warrants, payroll, the most recent ones for your perusal. I believe you've seen these from the packet already. Are there any questions about either the warrants or the payroll?
Do you have any that need signed tonight?
I do. I brought them. You can do it after the meeting.
Okay. We got some time to kill a little bit for Girl Scouts to get out.
Sounds good.
All right. Superintendent's report.
All right. So, about 5 or 6 items I just want to briefly touch upon tonight. At our last meeting, which seems like a long time ago now, we had 2 presentations, one from Ms. Priestley and one from Dr. Esposito. Dr. Esposito spoke about our upcoming tiered focus monitoring review, which happened. It happened January 10th and 11th. It was extremely successful, in large part to the work by the leadership team, but especially the work and leadership by Dr. Esposito. So I just want to give her a shout out for all her efforts in making sure that this 2-day event ran very smoothly. As we stated in the first presentation, this was really an audit of our special education and our civil rights, and looking at how North Brookfield was faring and aligning with both of those big parts of what we do here every day. So within the next month and a half, we will receive a full report from the state, which we'll share with all of you, but also make public, so that you can see where we're at. Again, we worked very closely with members of DESE to make sure this went off without a hitch, and I think that we're in a very good spot. And the feedback we will receive, we will be able to rectify, I think, fairly quickly. So thank you again to the leadership team, and thank you again to Kirsten for your efforts on this, this very important 2-day review.
And when you post that report, that'll be
Yes.
on the school website?
It will be. School website, and I'll probably...
If you let us know, Matt's been our communications
Okay.
guy on Facebook lately. But
Yeah, we'll circle back, and we'll probably do maybe a review at some point later this spring, so everybody knows kind of where we're at, okay? I'll add that to the list of everything else that we want to do. Most recently, on Friday, January 13th, and again on Tuesday the 17th, we held our last 2 in-service professional development days. The 13th, that Friday, was a half day, and the 17th was a full day, and I know we've had a lot of no school days in between, so it's kind of a crazy 2-week time period. But again, I think there were 2 very successful PD opportunities for our entire staff. On Friday, that half day, we spent the afternoon working on a curriculum alignment. So we developed a common template for all teachers and staff to use when developing the curriculum units, and they worked within small groups for the remainder of the school day on this, this overarching goal that we have for the entire district this year. On that Tuesday the 17th, we brought in the consulting firm Ideas, which stands for Initiatives for Developing Equity and Achievement for Students. So we worked with this group previous to the PD as a leadership team, where they gave us a 2-hour training on basically what to expect for the full day PD. And we're looking at continue our work and our discussion around equity, diversity, inclusion. And Curriculum development and equity and inclusion are our two overarching goals for this year and beyond. And I think that we really hit a home run with this PD. Karen and Edward, who are our two facilitators, did a fantastic job, gave our teachers some real kind of tangible items to work with as far as activities and discussions with our students around equity and inclusion. And this all goes back to my push to make sure that every student and staff member feels like they belong in North Brookfield. And that's important to all of us as educators and as families and as members of the school committee. But this PD really worked and discussed our next steps and how to have those difficult conversations when talking about racism, equity, and inclusion. So this is just the first of many PD opportunities for the staff around this topic. We also, in early January, we brought back Unique Potential to work with our two high school guidance and adjustment counselor. They then, with Dr. Gould, presented to the full staff at one of the staff meetings in mid-January about our advisory block, which in fact they will have their first full-fledged advisory block this Friday. And this is a set curriculum that deals with college and career readiness for our junior, senior high school students through a social emotional lens. So you talk about next steps for your college career, next steps for your career, but also talking about those 5 CASA competencies around SEL education. So we're excited about that. That will start off this Friday. Homeroom teachers or advisory teachers will do this within their advisory block, which is around 30 minutes, and this will happen weekly from now to the end of the school year. And we have, the curriculum frameworks go from grade 7 through 12. We've also this year been piloting 2 new online math curriculums, Bridges, which we use for grades K through 5, and an Illustrative, which we're piloting for grades 6 through 12. Bridges has been very well received, and it's going to be adopted for the elementary school next year. We really, through our MCAS results, through our math data, and just through kind of the overall changes we felt throughout the district with our math instruction in the last couple of years, we felt that math was a really good starting point for looking at our curriculum that we offer to our students. We have we're in a great place right now with our reading curriculum for elementary school students, so we really need to bolster our math program. So we're spending an extra amount of time this year on those 2 pilot programs. So Bridges is K through 5, Illustrative is grades 6 through 12, and both of those are being piloted now and will be brought into fruition next year for all of our students. So we'll be offering some PD next year for Illustrative for the high school teachers, but we're excited to have those 2 programs. And we've been using our math coach to really help facilitate excuse me, these 2 programs and make sure our teachers feel supported when they're rolling these out. So Steve has been a really big part of that initiative. And lastly, I just want to give a quick update. We had our most recent community outreach meeting on Tuesday the 24th, and we are continuing to come up with new ideas. We're targeting now in late March a community health fair, which will be held at the high school. So we're working to organize that. But I met today with the Board of Health and looking at some great opportunities for the district moving forward that align with some of our district-wide goals that we've already talked about. So excited what we're doing there, and again, we're really trying to bridge the community and the school districts, bring those 2 entities together and make them more as one as opposed to 2 separate people or groups. And I think we've been very successful at that this year. So our next meeting is scheduled for Tuesday, February 28th. So that's my report for tonight.
Any questions for Mr. McCormick?
I wanted to ask, in terms of the program you mentioned with racism, equity, and inclusion, with that program you were doing, I'm just curious, in terms of children who are foster adoptive, was there any talk about that and how that piece can be different for some kids?
There was. There is one of the activities that we used, or that we introduced to our teaching staff during that Friday, was around identity, and there's many different layers to identity, right? And so that part did come up, and different students, different adults identify different ways. And that DCF, foster care, did come up as a way to, a different identifier for students. that wasn't the crux of the conversation, but that did come up.
One of the things that is good in terms of when you're talking about aligning equity and inclusion with those type of kids is when you have a project, for instance, that talks about your history and your family, that can be a little difficult for those kids too.
Yes, and I think that, I just want to stress, this was our first full-day PD around this topic, which, as I said, it's one of our 2 overarching goals, but not only this year, but moving forward, and it's one of many. And I think that this was a general conversation, which was very well received by the staff, which is going to turn into more smaller conversations about how to address internalized bias, racism, and just how to be, like I said, foster a culture of belonging for all of our students, no matter where they come from.
Thank you.
This ties into a lot of that evaluation from DESE too, right? Wasn't that part of that tiered program?
There's elements of that, but this is an initiative by the state for all school districts. Like I said, this was our entry point. We started this conversation back in August, and we decided to use ideas as kind of our consulting firm, if you will, which is grant funded.
All right, any other questions?
For that health fair, what are the topics that are looking, going to be discussed with the board of health being involved?
Well, I met with them today, and they're kind of a late addition, so they'll be involved in some way. We discussed today about some additional surveys that they'd like the school to be part of, to kind of focus and look at they also write a lot of grants to communities. This is through Leicester. It's like a 7-town group, but it's North Brookfield's Board of Health is involved with this. So we're looking to use that data to kind of drive kind of our grant writing, and they will be part of the March health fair. I don't know what they're going to do just yet, because like I said, they just came on board, but we'll advertise that.
I have another question. In terms of the tiered focus monitoring that you mentioned, I wasn't here at the December 19th meeting because I wasn't like official yet, but when I watched that meeting, there was some things that I had questions, and I would ask Dr. Esposito, or if we need to do it for next time to prepare for that, it's fine. I don't see her on the agenda, so I just want to ask you since you brought it up. So in the self-directed improvement areas, what were the areas that were identified as needing work?
Dr. Esposito, you can answer that tonight. If not, we can give back to the board, but off the top of my head, I do not know.
I think we have
you have the presentation.
We have the presentation.
It wasn't ever said exactly what they were. You did ask a question about the areas, but they weren't ever mentioned exactly what they were. I was just curious on that.
You're talking about the area specific to our the tiered focus monitoring?
Yep.
And what areas did we need to work on?
Right.
So the intent, if I may?
Go ahead.
So the intent of the tiered focus monitoring is a year ago to do a self-assessment.
Right.
And through that self-assessment is that we work on the areas that we already identified, our areas that we need to work on, and it gives us that year. So last year, the intent was that we would work on those. So from July to the time we submitted, which was probably late December, early January, we worked on looking at our handbooks, making sure that we were in compliance with our McKinney-Vento, with our bullying statements, with, I have to go through all of the steps, but with those, with our code of conduct. So some of them were compliant, making sure that all of our processes were up to the level and standard. So some of those were just even our paperwork. Mm-hmm. And then when you looked at civil rights, they were asking us to look at things like our, and I have to think, I can go through and look up some of them. But essentially they broke down making sure we looked at discipline, making sure we were following the right disciplinary, progressive discipline, and that we were following all the steps, making sure that our district curriculum accommodation plan had a lot of evidence-based practices, like our PBIS program that Ms. Priestley spoke of. So they just wanted to make sure that all of those things were being taught to our staff, that we were training our staff, that we had systems in place. And so our job, and my job, was to come in and make sure that we had those things, and if we didn't, that we put those in place and that training was happening. And so that's what they were looking at. And the idea is that if they weren't in place, that we put them in place and that we were training our staff on them. So the areas that we will not be potentially in full compliance are things that we unpacked that take more than just a few months to put together, that they're going to, and they let us know that there were some areas that we would not be in full compliance with, and they said that that is completely understandable, that we're, you know, relatively a new leadership team, but that they would give us that feedback, and then over the next year, they partner with us, and that they will work with us to get us into full compliance. But they were very impressed with the amount of effort and work we spent from July to January to identify the areas that we were not in compliance with and to get us into compliance. And they were very impressed with the leadership and the amount of attention given to the areas. And they really felt like there was a lot in place. They just wanted it buttoned up, so to speak, and have us work together. So I think when we did that, they saw that there was a lot that North Brookfield had, whether it was on our website or in handbooks, and they said they wanted to make sure it was all streamlined. And so we were able to do that, put things on our website. Some things, we know it's a work in progress. And they said they're very happy to work with us. And I think that was, you know, Mr. McCormick, I think, in our kind of quick debrief, which really was about 20 minutes that they gave us, but they also went through some of our files again, and they did that back in, I believe, March of last year as well. So there's a lot of pieces that go into this, but they don't give you a full summary because it's one person's view, and then it goes up the chain, 2 different people, and then it will be delivered back down to us.
Okay.
So.
Sonia, I forwarded you the last month's meeting packet, which has the presentation, the PowerPoint in it, which has some cool graphs and things that show some of the key points that they evaluated.
Thank you.
So you can take a look at that, turn it sideways, that's on my phone, but then we can get, when we get in the report in a month or so, we can revisit that and go through at least. I know it's hard watching from home and trying to see what was on the screen up behind us, but there's a lot in it and some very handy visual aids that let you see the major points.
Okay, good.
And it does break down each section that they looked at, that I put in the PowerPoint. So it outlines each section they were looking at.
Okay.
So,
And so when they had the part where they wanted to meet someone from the CPAC, what happened?
we had a parent come in and they interviewed that family. They asked for one person. So that's how someone came in and did that.
It was just an individual that gets IEP services, not necessarily a member, because,
Correct.
yeah.
Yeah.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, administrators' reports. First one on the list as I scroll down is Dr. Gould.
Thank you. As Olivier explained, that on December 23rd, the high school conducted a winter sports rally preceded by a Spirit Week, determined by the students. Students, they didn't want to watch a Christmas movie, and I said, no, we're gonna, but I'll tell you what, I'll make a concession of let's do a sports rally. And they were great about it, and the students were well behaved, and it was a great Spirit Week, so well done. On the 20th of December, the high school conducted a winter concert, and it was great to hear about that. I wasn't able to attend myself, but it was included in my newsletter, and I give a lot of credit to the students as well as Mr. Blumenthal. So that was great. On the 22nd, the Massachusetts National Guard worked with Mr. Kinnan to bring in and conduct their Guard Fit exercise program. It was extremely popular to see those kids do things like tug of war, and laughter was had by all. It was exciting. And it was really fun to see those kids enjoy it and to see them interact with the National Guard, which was a great program. Before we committed to it, we wanted to make sure this was successful at other schools, and before we gave the go-ahead, it was. So Mr. Kinnan did a good job working with them. On the 21st, the high school hosted a movie night for our fundraiser for the current graduating class, which was great. 8th grader Whitney Reno was appointed as the Project 351 ambassador. And for those who don't know, there are 351 communities in the Commonwealth of Massachusetts. And what this does is recognizes this idea of assisting families in need. And right now, Nathaniel Stonehouse is the current ambassador, and he does a lot of good work with him and his friends, such as George McPherson and Chris Baum. And they're bringing Whitney along as well, which is exciting. On Wednesday, January 18th, the high school hosted a parent evening for those parents who wanted to meet some of the chaperones going on the DC trip, and they were great. And I want to give a lot of credit to not only Mrs. Hanson, but her daughter, Miss Hanson, as well as Miss Malone and Mr. Hatch, who will serve as the chaperones, and that's exciting. We also promote the efforts of the Theater Guild of North Brookfield to get students involved in the plays and productions that are being done as well. And they have an open invitation to meet with us and work with us in terms of getting enlisting students. In terms of management, basic things. One of the things I'm always sensitive to is the flag, whether it's half-mast or at half-mast because of a tragedy in our country, the death of a prominent person. And I noticed that the flag was beginning to shred, and I asked our facilities director, Ray, to see if he could replace that within a day. He had it replaced, which was exciting. It shows his diligence and his value of that. So, and I give credit to him on that. Every week I meet with the facilities director to assess the needs of the facility. I think it's amazing that this building is 20 years old, and I think we're very proud of it. And there's a lot to be said for that in the community as a result of that. Basically, I build my relationships throughout the day with students, but I also conduct what we call office detentions, 2 to 3. They come sit in my office. Those students who have conduct infractions, I make sure the parents know, and I build those relationships. So that's a routine, and Ms. Birmingham helps me out, my secretary, if I'm tied up, but basically we work together. And it's really interesting to get that rapport from kids. It's a lot of fun, actually. We also conducted, under the guidance of Superintendent McCormick, focus groups for students to help inform the district improvement plan and the feedback we got. So that was fun. Not only student focus groups, but faculty focus groups as well. The second term just ended. Initially it was supposed to end on the 20th, but it ended on the 24th due to snow delays, and so we had to bump that back a little bit. Teaching and learning, what are we doing? Well, I meet weekly with Steve, the math coach, and that's going very productively. Never was a math guy myself. I'm a social studies guy, but he helps me understand the language that is math and make sure all our teachers have common planning time, but especially the math teachers, and we're coordinating that. And that's going well, and I give a lot of credit to the administrative team, as well as Superintendent McCormick and Steve for helping us do that. Faculty continue to meet during common planning time. We call it team time for unpacking and articulating the standards. On January 9th, the councils and the administration delivered a presentation to the faculty on the role of advisory and hosted a MIFA presentation in which basically we help guide their efforts to serve our students and educate our students, which was pretty positive. The administration, that's redundant. The high school faculty as part of the district received the presentation on diversity, equity, inclusion. The administration and councils have conducted numerous student support team meetings and produced in collaboration with the faculty 8 individual DCAP success plans, in which what we do is we receive data from the staff and we identify students in need, we identify the data points, and we try to create interventions. And this is expanding our capacity that was established last year, but expanding upon it. I believe, I could be wrong in this, I've been informed that last year they had 8 success plans developed. I think we've already exceeded that, but we have more work to do trying to support our students. And then map testing, first day was today, again delayed for a number of anticipated snow days, and we anticipate on going through early February with the map testing, which will be the second round of testing. We have a baseline, and now we're going to see where the students are at. And that's what's been going on at the high school. Thank you. Sorry.
Thank you, Dr. Blue. Any questions?
Any questions?
Yeah.
So you said this detention is fun, I think you said.
It is.
Do you give an exit survey? Do the students say the same thing?
Well, I mean fun because we often discuss history, and some of them are like, no, not history. And then, like, I've started to bring in Mr. Zippin, who likes to tell dad jokes,
Yeah.
and they're like, no, not that. So we try to have reports, but we also have life lessons and discussions, you know, what made you do this?
Yeah, it's cool. Yeah.
And in terms of the discussion with other administrators like Ms. Priestley, we talk about social justice and we talk about restorative justice. And, you know, one student, I told the other day how proud I was of him because he basically met with the faculty and said, I've made mistakes, but he owned it. And it took him a long time to get there. And that's the type of relationships we build. And the more mature I get, the more I realize conduct and discipline is more akin to social and emotional needs of student. And what are they doing? It's not so much you get this for that, but persuade them, get them help, intervene in more ways than one. And, you know, discipline should not be the stepchild of education, but also let's do it in an informed way. And let's speak in a monotone voice and let's shepherd them in the right direction. And I think part of that is that level of trying to get them to know me, trying to meet with them and spend time with them. And I think there's a lot of success with that. So it is gratifying for me as well. I had one student who wasn't getting along with his mother, and because I had spent so much time with him, he asked to see me alone, and he talked to me, he said, you know, school, what should I do about my mom? And I said, well, I can't tell you what to do, but I can refer you to like either talking to someone who's a counselor, or maybe watch this movie, let's talk about that. I had a student come in and insist on taking a picture with me because he dressed up as me, and it was kind of cool, but that was all part of those relationships that you make spending time. You go to their basketball games, and as you all know, I get out there and play basketball with them, or try to. And it's a lot of fun, and I'll sit there and in the cafeteria, some of them will say something, I'll look at them. I said, sure, I'll sit with you. You don't cramp my style, and I'll sit down, and they'll be like, what's he doing? So you make them laugh, and you have fun with it. And that's what I try to do.
Good stuff, thanks.
Yeah, I appreciate that, hearing that. That's good stuff.
Thank you.
It's a far cry from detentions when I was in school.
Right?
Not the Breakfast Club anymore.
Yeah.
Well, thank you.
I have a question. This might be nitpicky, but was the flag properly retired?
I don't know if it was. I understand the retired flag, you're supposed to either burn it or place it, bury it. And I'm not sure what the status was of that process.
A lot of times the people that provide the flag will handle properly disposing of the other one, properly retiring the other one. So hopefully that was the case.
I'll follow up on that. Thank you.
So as I scroll down here, the next administrative report is from Mrs. Priestley.
Thank you. So the biggest news that we have to share is welcoming Mrs. Lee Salvage as our music teacher. She started on January 9th. She's been doing great. The kids are having fun in music again, and we're just really thrilled to have her. So welcome. And I'm not going to read everything, but the instructional leadership teams, particularly our math leadership team, has been spearheading the work on piloting the new math curriculum. So we have 2 that are being piloted at the elementary level right now. HMH into math, I think. It's HMH something. They have a couple different ones. But it's their math curriculum for K and 1, and then the bridges, as Mr. McCormick mentioned, in grades 2, 3, and 4, and illustrative in grades 5 and 6. And what we asked our staff to do is what we will be asking them to do is to complete an assessment to rate each of those different programs. And it's starting to seem like Bridges is bubbling to the top. That seems to be the staff favorite when we've discussed and compared them. But the data will tell. And the illustrative at the high school level is just really dynamic. It relies heavily on engaging with technology and manipulating shapes and equations, and the Chromebooks that the students have at the junior, senior high school level certainly makes that easy for them to engage with. So that's kind of exciting. We've been wanting to look at different math curricula for a while now, so that's good stuff. Like the high school, we're also conducting map growth assessments this week and next. Our PBIS teams continue to work. Tier 1's just rocking and rolling. We're putting together a presentation of the culmination of our work for our conference in March. We have an in-person session to showcase our work. And the Tier 2 team's just getting started. We have access to the Swiss Suite check-in, check-out, which is, I won't get into all of it. This is something that I probably will present on later at another meeting. But it's a way for us to collect data on students' progress throughout their day, setting goals about what they want to complete, and to be able to make decisions based on those. So that's, and that will be for our Tier 2 students, the students who just need a little bit more. Excited to have the cool kids back in the auditorium Tuesday afternoons. I don't know when their concert will be, but I will definitely be there. And kindergarten is, registration starting, letters are going out. As Dr. Esposito put in her report, kindergarten screening will be sometime in June.
Yes. It's a nice leeway right into mine.
I just, segued right into her
Right.
report. But I'd be happy to answer any questions before.
Any questions before we take advantage of that nice segue into
Right?
Dr. Esposito's
No.
report?
But that was
Smooth.
well done. So I'm happy to jump in. So the preschool readiness and our screening is reserved. We've already identified the 2 dates, which will be April 5th and 6th. So more to come on that. And then the kindergarten expected screening will happen in June. Part of the tiered focus monitoring, Tanya, that you raised, some of the things that were done was we updated our fall manual, training manual for staff. That was one of the things, and we did revise some procedures in special education towards compliance. So those were a few of the things that I wanted to add in. And hard to believe, before the snow days, we were going to be 100 days at February 6th. So that was important because we were at about 50 IEPs that we know that we had still left to schedule. So we're busy in our office working on that and making sure that we stay in compliance. And we have been working diligently this year with our early intervention, which is Kennedy Donovan, and we are getting referrals through them about one on average, one a month. And some management tasks, we did have a CPAC basic rights training. Fortunately, no one attended. However, that doesn't stop us for continuing to try to get parents involved and invested. I know that CPAC hosted a coffee back in December, and that wasn't well attended either. However, again, we're not going to stop. Another thing that I'm doing right now is I sent out a survey to other local districts that are in our collaborative to inquire about how they're programming for their preschool. So I'll be sharing some survey results and putting that together for our superintendent, and then be sharing that at some point with the school committee. And then some future expectations is to look for that as we look at budget. And I'm working with the transition planning between 6th and 7th to just firm up and see if there's anything that we can be doing to affect and impact our parents' decision as they look to how we can transition and use what's really working from how our 6th graders transition into 7th and inform our families of all the great things that are happening here, and between Ms. Priestley and what Dr. Gould are doing in our schools, and how we can have our families meet some of the staff and see what's happening. So that's what we're working on in our office. Any questions?
I didn't have a question, but I did want to add that I know towards the end of the year, Student Council does, we put on what we call our junior conference, where we have the 6th graders come over and we do a bunch of stuff with them. It's more Student Council focused, but they do still get to see the school. And then over the summer, we usually help out with the the day where they come over and they get to see the school and meet the teachers. And it's more of the school focused.
All that is involved. I met with all of the 7th grade teachers, and Ms. Malone has all of that information, and we're collaborating actually we're together on this.
Awesome.
So, and she's very excited. So this is already in the works, and the Stuco is going to be very much involved. So thank you for that, because that's new information, and being new, I wanted to make sure that there's a
Right.
lot of pieces that become a system. So thank you.
You're welcome.
I love your enthusiasm.
I think it's important to get kids over here as much as possible. One of the reasons we moved to this room, besides the fact that it's got a little more capacity and built-in seating, is that just shows that this is the high school. We're over in the high school. We've got a very nice facility. We've mentioned it a couple of times so far, and the more people that can come in here and can see what we have to offer in the building, the better.
We had our 6th graders over at our winter pep rally. They came over to watch. They usually come over for our lip sync that happens before April vacation, and they'll watch to see what they get to look forward to for next year. So we definitely try to include them as much as possible.
I was very impressed by how much you all do. And so for me, it was wonderful to hear all the things you do and to just brainstorm, are there more things that we can do? And unfortunately, Dr. Gould wasn't in that day, but
Right.
we're gonna get him to add ideas, and that's just one extra step of some of the things that we wanna involve student services. And so it's very exciting. So thank you, I look forward to working with you.
If we send you over, Dr. Gould, you can go play basketball with the 6th graders.
I'd love to. It'd be great.
Come over on our fun Friday.
Actually, I do have a question too, out of curiosity. I don't know if I've seen the numbers and just can't recall. So you said you have 50 IEPs to do before June?
We'll be holding before June.
What's the total number in the district of students on IEPs?
We're about 125.
Out of how many students total? Out of 5?
Four,
something.
450, I think, about 450.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Regarding the new online math curriculum, is there any way to see like samples of the curriculum, like what the kids are going through? Because it sounds pretty cool.
Absolutely. I can't pull it up now because I don't have an illustrative account, but I can get some screenshots from our math coach and send them to Mr. McCormick, and he can share them out. to all
Are
of
there
you.
any like website portals that
I don't,
to look at?
You
Like,
could probably
probably.
YouTube it.
Okay.
Can I give you the spelling before you leave that, John?
If you go to illustrativemathematics.org, you can kind of get a sense of what they're about. I'm just taking a quick glance. I don't see any screenshots yet, but yeah, probably YouTube.
Are those the same company, Bridges and Illustrator?
No.
They're two different companies. I'm trying to remember who Bridges is through. Math Learning Center. Bridges is through the Math Learning Center. And Illustrative is, I forget the name of it, it's not on here, but it's, okay. I'll find out.
Kendall Hunt.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
Kendall Hunt. I didn't think of the K.
I'm like Kendall Hunt.
Yeah,
Thank you.
you're welcome.
All right, old business. This is very old business. The exit survey policy update. We don't have one because everyone that was working on it is no longer on the committee.
I can, you know what, I'll remove that for a bit. We can, find another time we can revisit that.
Yeah, I think it's something that we definitely want to pursue. I mean, right now, we're kind of in the middle of the school year, but it seems like the transition really happens at the end or before the next school year. So I don't know if any of you have particular interest in, Tanya, I think you reached out to me about this
Yes.
particular issue. Is that something you might want to be involved in? If we can get a subcommittee together, we'll get Ron's input on it next time, but
Great.
you want to think about your thoughts on it?
Yeah,
and,
I'll do that.
We can, next meeting, instead of an update, we'll just appoint, or we'll put two people on
Sure.
that task. And then district policy updates.
So these were in your packet, in the December meeting, which I don't believe we didn't discuss at length, but as part of the tiered focus monitoring review, we had to update our policy and procedures. These are right from MASC in 2019. And we talked to their rep when they were out there, and we want to just upload these into our handbooks verbatim and make sure that they're there. So that's foster care, equal educational equity for students, educational opportunity for military children, and McKinney Vento are all appropriately documented in our handbooks. So this requires a vote. Like I said, this is a simple adoption of these policies and in our handbooks.
So we had, these are at the back of the thing. Do you guys have any, the motion would be to add this to the handbook.
I'd just like to ask a quick question.
Sure.
What does
We
the
have to
handbook?
make a
Oh,
motion
sorry.
first, and then we talk
Yes.
about it.
Okay, sorry.
I'll make a motion that we adopt the new language surrounding the McKinney-Vento policy, foster care, special education, and homelessness policy in the school handbook.
You have a second?
Second.
All right. Now we can talk about it.
Okay. What does it say now, the handbook?
Very similar, it's just these are revised, so every couple of years, MASC, Mass School Superintendents looks at the legal language to make sure it's where it needs to be. So,
It didn't, nothing jumped out.
no, nothing jumps out at you, and I think most people don't even look at it, but we want
That's
to.
why I just wanted to know what the
Yeah.
difference was.
It's a lot of legalese.
Right.
But we will, again, it goes back to making sure that every student has equal access to every part of our education. So,
Is there any other questions, or you want to discuss it anymore, or anything jump out at you as being a problem? I didn't see anything when I read through it.
I didn't either.
All right, well, all in favor of adding this to the handbook to replace the other one? All four of us? Yes. Ron?
and
All right. Any other policy things we need to discuss? We have an open part in here for policy. We do have a policy subcommittee, which was Chris and Christie. When Ron's back next week, we'll talk about the subcommittees we have.
Including you two, huh?
Yeah. Congratulations. We have policy, we have curriculum, we have building and grounds and negotiations. Those are the four subcommittees we have. We operate in pairs just so we can so we can discuss things without having a voting quorum present, and it helps a little bit. Currently, Matt and I are on we're on the negotiations and the building and grounds committees, and Chris and Christie were on the other two committees, so we have some openings. If you guys want to think about that, if there's anything of particular interest to you, we can talk about it at the next meeting. We'll put that on there. So next meeting, we'll put a little subheading, subcommittee. Any new business? Any exciting new business? All right. Well, I don't think we have any reason for an executive session.
I'll make a motion that we adjourn this meeting.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Any discussion on whether we adjourn? All right, all in favor? All right, thank you.
Congratulations.